Is it possible to add tables from different data sources into one data source view? This will be very important interview question. Um, if you say yes, then they'll ask you how you can do that. So let me explain you that. The answer is yes for that. You can add data from the multiple data sources into one data source view. And let me show you how we can do that now. Okay, first, let me show you the cube that I have. I have one data source and I have one data source view. And in this data source view, I have added some n number of tables. So let me remove a couple of tables. Sorry. So that we can easily understand what tables are there from which data source, just to make the work easy for us. Okay, these are the tables available. Let me take out few, and let me take out few here. Okay, I hope this will not impact my dimensions or something. I don't want any of these dimensions for now. Let me delete these guys, and also the cube. Okay, now this is my data source, and using the data source, I created a data source view, and let me arrange tables, and I have 4 or 5 tables, and this is the this is my data source view, and all the tables are from the data source AdventureWorks DW 2014, which you can see on my screen. Now, let's see how we can pull the data tables from the different data sources into a data source view. For that, the first step you need to do is you need to have multiple data sources. Let's assume this is one data source, okay, and I'm going to add one more data source. I don't have an Oracle or Teradata or any other stuff installed in my machine, so let me add one more database from SQL Server itself. I think I have some other database. Okay, let me pick the database name. No, I don't have any other database. So let me create one more database. It doesn't matter if I can able to pull the tables from the different data sources, then that means you can do it with the different data. With the data sources using different database servers too. So I'm creating one more data source, and let me give it as service account for now, and I'll name it as second data source. Okay. So the first step is to create the two data sources, and the second step is you have to create a data source view using one of the data sources, and which we call it as the one which we call it as primary data source. So in this case, let me start from scratch. I'm creating a data source using the AdventureWorks DW 2014. So it's showing the data sources that are available. The first one is AdventureWorks DW 2014. And the second data source is second data source. First, let me select this, and whatever I'm going to select here to create my data source view will become the primary data source of the data source view. Okay, it's asking me to select the tables. Fact internet sales. Let me filter. I've taken this guy, and let me add related tables. I don't want this many, to be honest. Let me take only dim product. And I don't want these guys too. Okay, I've taken these two tables from the primary data source. Now, how can I add a table from the second data source which is available here? So for doing that, I have to go to add or remove tables, and here it will list out all the data sources that you have created in the data sources. So in this project, so if you see here, I can select the secondary data source, and I can select, you can see it is showing second data source, the data source name when you are here. And if you have two, this is your primary data source, that's why it's showing as primary. When you select the secondary one, then it's showing this tables belongs to the secondary data source. Okay, you can see on the right hand side. Now let me take dim employee. Okay, this is fine. Now I have tables from two different data sources. If you go to the properties, you can see the data source of this particular table is second data source, and for this guy it is this one. Okay, so this is how you can add. You have to keep two things in mind. The first thing is the data source view you create using one of the data source will become your primary data source, and the second thing is that primary data source should have open row set option. If you don't have that, you cannot use multiple data sources tables from the multiple data sources, it doesn't work as expected. So you need to have open row set option for that particular database which you used as your primary data source. So that is why people prefer to use SQL Server as the primary data source. Why? Because it has that option open row set, which helps in connecting to the databases outside the SQL Server or in the different servers. So keep in mind, the primary data source should have the option open row set. You have to highlight that when they ask the question about this, pulling the data from the two different data sources into your data source view. Hope you understood, and stay tuned for more videos on SSIS, SSAS, and SSRS interview questions. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.